America is going to be dragged into the war anyways, because Israel is 100% certain that they want to basically end the Islamic Republic now and forever. But the challenge for Israel is that they want to do this without giving ammunition to anti Israeli Americans who say it's Israel who drags us into wars, right? And that's challenging to do. How do we communicate with the White House that there needs to not only there needs to be a war, but the war needs to be significant enough that and that gets us to regime change, um, but also not make it seem like Israel is the one who's dragging America into war. And the way that you do that, is that you don't ask United States for regime change. You ask the United States for the lower range of the ballistic missiles, with the understanding that Khamenei would never agree to that. That's how you do it. That's how you ask for regime change without asking for regime change. You do it by insisting that Israel's red line is that any negotiation must have the reduction of the range of the ballistic missiles in it, or else it should not be accepted. And with the understanding that neither IRGC or Khamenei will accept that, you're basically asking for a war that it does regime change.
Two more questions from the chat. So someone says, I heard from a high level official in Israel that the IRGC has gotten much stronger missiles than they had in the 12-day war, and that had become a major concern. Do you know anything about this?
Um, I will let Jeffrey respond to this, because I think Jeffrey is a lot more informed about this topic.
It's true. So the Mullah regime is getting assistance, not the least of which is there's like what they call, what is it, planar blenders. They're like really big blenders to like produce a lot of solid rocket fuel. Yeah, I mean, so Mullah regime's getting assistance from Putin, G, Pakistan, elements of Pakistan, North Koreans. North Koreans one of the biggest missile proliferators in the world, to bump up their long range or their medium and intermediate, short, intermediate, and medium range ballistic missiles. That's very true. That's why we're also moving more assets in the region. That's why I said it's like, it's a race. Armin's not wrong. I'm going to again bounce off what Armin said. I can say with a pretty high degree of human certainty, well, the highest degree of human certainty I possess, there's the highest degree of probability that Israel is not going to accept the Mullah regime existing anymore, because they know, right? They know the Mullah regime is trying to play this bullshit game, or well, maybe we'll give you a little bit over here and then don't look over there. Yeah, nobody believes you. And even if the Mullah regime was able to sell that to the administration, which every analyst that I know and all the people that I know that have ties to the administration, none of them believe anything the Mullah regime is telling the administration. I mean, for good reason. Let's say that somehow magically happens. Israel is going to probably, I can say with the highest degree of human certainty I possess, has the highest degree of probability that the state of Israel, particularly under Bibi, for good reason, is going to go, yep, don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about us. We're not going to die for your frigging convenience. We're going to take our best shot. That's what I said in my threat, risk, and vulnerability assessment in late 2022. I said that there's going to come a time where the Mullah regime is going to get to a breakout point where Israel's going to tell everybody, including the State Department, doesn't matter how many crazy leftists are there, doesn't matter if they jump up and down and slap their pussy on the ground like a psychotic holler monkey. They don't give a fuck. They're not going to get vaporized for people's convenience. I'm sorry, BT. I know that was a little. I don't know how else to drive that point home. Right? They're not going to die for people's political convenience, and they will go all in. Here's the problem with it. For this very same reason why Donald sent in the bombers he did in Operation Midnight Hammer, right? Israel has a very capable Air Force. There are things that the Mullah regime has buried and hardened that go beyond what the Israelis can deliver conventionally. They will indeed use unconventional means. I don't want to see that. Donald doesn't want to see that. Pretty much nobody wants to see that. Which kind of also underwrites Armin's point, though. That's your that's one of your trump cards. Because Israel's going to go like, we're not dying for you. We're not dying so people can not have to hear like some asshole talking head say something on Fox News. They're not doing that. It's the same reason why, when people say, well, how come Ukraine doesn't accept like Putin's crazy, whatever? Because Putin's goal is to exterminate Ukrainians. They don't care if they're dead from an atomic bomb or a fucking caliber missile. They know the result is they're dead. They're not dying on their knees. That's when I was talking about God's law, man's law, natural law. And some people think that somehow man's law, where I did this legal thing and you can't do that, I'm gonna wag my finger. There comes a time where no one cares about that anymore, right? Just like why brave Persian protesters, like those attractive girls, when they put out their little sign, you remember that, Armin? When they're saying, we're hunting you down, they mean that shit. Well, how can they do that? Because they lost their whole fucking family to these violent, vile mullah bastards. And they don't give a shit about what the hell some asshole academician thinks about what they're going to do. They're looking for a little payback. That's natural law. So, I'm sorry. Anyway, all that to say, I very much agree with what Armin's assessment is, although the concern that was raised is very true. It's very valid. The mullah regime is looking to, with the assistance of the Chicoms and Putin and the North Koreans and everybody else, to increase their per month productive capability of solid fueled intermediate medium range ballistic missiles to 300 a month. 300 a month. The issue with that is solid fuel ballistic missiles you can launch just like that. You don't need to fuel them. The time it takes for you to set it up and launch it and then reset, like reload the launcher, is a lot less than liquid fuel ballistic missiles. Again, Israel knows that, and they're like, yep, not going to die for your convenience. Mm-mm. So, yeah, I just wanted to return to the point you made. I hate saying circle back because Saki adulterated it. Like Armin, you're not wrong. Like, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The final question from chat is, what is stopping the IRGC from doing a Saddam and blowing up Iran's oil wells?
How does that? I don't even like when it comes to the mechanics of that. Like, how does that even work? Like, do you just oil it when you blow it up? Does that it doesn't blow up all the oil, right? It just shortly, it just temporarily reduces your ability to extract oil. Like, it's not like the oil, all of the oil is gone. There's so much of it underground. It's not like it's gonna, so I don't. I mean, here's what like. So I'm when it comes, I'm not an expert regarding the level of damage that that would cause, but and I don't want to basically spread messages regarding scaring people. I do believe that it is possible for the Islamic Republic to want to do serious. Like, I don't know how, and I have some like that's one example, but I have some other ideas in my mind regarding what the Islamic Republic might want to do that I don't want to share because I don't want to scare people. It is something that in Persian we say "zamin sukhta tahvil daden," which means like scorched earth, like giving us, like if they think that they're falling, they might want to not leave anything, leave as little for us as possible, both in resources or human lives. That is something that we need to be concerned about, but maybe not as much, because if they had to bring in, so here's some reasons that we might not have to be worried about completely leaving us. I know there are some people within the Islamic Republic that if they think the Islamic Republic is falling, they want to basically take as much as possible with them, right? However, we have seen that within the Islamic Republic's armed forces, there has been a lot of refusal to follow command when it comes to shooting at people. That's why they had to bring proxy groups from outside. We have seen that they had to drug people to make them be able to shoot into crowds of innocent people. That suggests that maybe on normal conditions they would not be able to do that. Like mentally, they would not want to shoot into crowds of people. We saw that the Islamic Republic had to shoot at its own people to convince some of its own forces to shoot at people. So we got an admission from some people within the regime itself that the Islamic Republic gets some people in plain clothes in the middle of the crowd and shoots its own armed forces and kills its own armed forces to motivate them to shoot back into the people. This also suggests that many people within the Islamic Republic wouldn't naturally just shoot into people. So that's encouraging to know. I mean, it's horrific to know that this is the Islamic Republic does, but it's also somewhat encouraging to know that they require convincing. Like it's not something that they naturally would want to do, right? So, given that this is their armed forces, to me, it suggests that among a lot of the other people within the regime, there are people who are horrified to learn that this is what the regime has done. Like I could almost guarantee it that as we're speaking, there are many people within the regime who have been horrified regarding what happened in early January, and they're just trying to figure out a way to quit the regime without getting caught. So this is why maybe waiting the time that is passing is not as harmful as a lot of people think. Maybe the regime is basically collapsing from the inside. This is why maybe instead of attacking now, waiting for the Islamic Republic to become weaker, more people running away, more people defecting will be a safer option so that the regime doesn't have the ability to cause a lot of damage when it falls. Like a slow fall is less dangerous than an immediate fall, maybe. This is why Princess of Pahlavi's attempt to create a framework where many people from the regime could communicate with him and create some sort of stability as soon as the Islamic Republic is falling and maybe stop some people from causing maximum damage at those key moments is going to be a key part of actually making sure that the transition happens without a lot of harm, right? We know that he has already more than 100,000 people from the regime secretly joining his side. But it is a concern that we need to keep in mind. I just don't want to advertise it a lot because I don't want to discourage people from, continue to fight. Like Princess of Pahlavi has commanded us not to spread hope rather than anything that could demotivate people in a revolution. So that's why I'm like thinking, listing the things that is giving me hope, right? I said on the live stream with Goldie that there is different Durka levels, right? So we have 10 out of 10 Durka, and then we have 6 out of 10 Durka people, right? So not just because somebody is Durka crazy Islamist, it's not 0 or 1. There are different levels, right? So at a 10 out of 10 Durka, 10 Durka out of 10 will have no problem. Give me a gun. You want me to shoot into these infidels, man, woman, and child? Okay, I'll do it. I'll feel proud. No guilty feelings at all. But then we might have like 6 out of 10 Durkas or 5 out of 10 Durkas. They're like, this doesn't seem right. Like I want to defend Islam. I want to defend the Islamic Republic, but this doesn't this doesn't this can't be right, right? So that's a 6 out of 10 Durka. So I think like sometimes the 10 out of 10 Durka needs to do something for the 6 out of 10 Durka to be able to convince them to shoot into people, but it seems like they're failing. That's why we got so many reports that during the massacre that was happening in early January by the Islamic regime against the people, they were calling their own family members, begging them, well, not begging them, saying that we have suitcases of US dollars here if you come and help us shoot at people. Like they were calling their own like cousins. They're like, we're to try to like, hey, I have USDs here, come here, shoot at people, and we will pay you. So the fact that the regime, like, I know that the regime has more, like a lot of people, a lot of armed forces. The fact that they even had to call their own family members means that their understanding is that a lot of these armed forces would not be shooting at people. Why were they short staffed? Like the number of people that it takes to kill 50,000 Iranians is not that high. The fact that they're short staffed to me suggests that many of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic would not be willing to, even among IRGC, the Artesh was disarmed. And like we got reports, and here's another encouraging report actually. A lot of people from Iran are saying right before the protest, the Artesh was disarmed. So to me, this suggests that the Islamic Republic is afraid of the Artesh, right? Why would they disarm the Artesh? So that's a huge positive sign in our favor. That I mean, a lot of Iranians are angry for why the Artesh was not defending the people when the Islamic regime was massacring them. So where were they? So that's the negative, but the positive is like, well, they didn't have weapons; they were disarmed, right? So that's another good sign. So yeah, somebody in the last thing, somebody in the chat saying because the Artesh would likely refuse. Yeah, but if they refuse, you don't need to disarm them. If you have disarmed them, you're worried that they go beyond refusing order. They will also might use their weapons to defend the people. That would be the only reason why you would disarm them. All right, sorry, BT.
Okay, next we have Payman.
Actually, I really want to bake my words, so I pass on. Thank you.
Okay, so that is the end of our list. We do have a question for post. So Armin, is there anything that you would? Oh, never mind. MD.
And just let me reduce the speed of.
MD, we have very low audio. I don't even know if you're.
I know.
Oh, go.
It's okay now.
Okay, go.
Yes, yeah. The
Yes.
fan speed was very high because my computer is.
Okay, it's okay. Just go.
Anyway,
Just ask your question.
yeah, I just wanted to add something because I read a lot of messages regarding the food shortage in Iran. As long as I know, there is no. The army said enough, but I just want to add something. There is no food shortage in Iran, but the problem is the price of food. And that's part of the problem is the because of the dollar, the price in Iran fluctuate a lot. That's one of the reasons. But fortunately, at the moment, we don't have any shortage of food. And also
But-
the other.
But one second, MD. That's the same thing. You know, when you say there's no problem with food shortages, it's the price of food being high. Okay, so when supply is lower, price goes higher. So high prices are basically another way of saying low supply.
Well, because most of, for example, rice, in Iran, they import rice from abroad because they pay dollars for that. When the dollar goes up,
I understand that, but when the dollar price goes up relative to the real, that means you could buy with the amount of money that you have, you could buy less rices, so it would be more expensive. But that's the same thing as saying there's less supply available with the purchasing power that you have. So high price and low supply are basically the two sides of the same coin.
That was one of my concerns about the food shortage, which I asked some of my families and relatives, and they said there is everything, but the big problem is just you can't buy what you used to buy a month ago, not now, at the same price.
Okay, but let me explain this to you. When you can't buy it, that means there's less of it. Just because, so what you see in the storefront is not the same thing as what you see in the storage area, right? So let's say, for example, what you see in the storefront is like 1% of what's in the storage area. So obviously, if the storage area becomes half of what there used to be, what they put in the storefront, that's the level of that is not going to change, Okay, so let's say you had this item, 1,000 of this item, and in your storefront you always put like 10 of it to demonstrate what you have, right? Now in your storage, instead of 1,000 you have 200, but in your storefront, out of the 200 you're still going to put that 10. You're not going to put like two, you're still going to put that 10. So the person who goes out and looks at what's available, they're going to see the same thing, but they're going to see different prices, because the person who's setting the prices has to set the prices based on how much supply he has available in the storage. For example, I'm simplifying this, right? So visibly, you're not going to, when there's less supply, when you go into the stores, visibly, you're not going to see anything different. You're only going to notice the prices increasing, and the price reflects the lower supply, because it's the same thing as saying my purchasing power has decreased. Because if there's less
Absolutely.
reals, if yeah, okay, so that makes sense. Okay, good.
Yeah, the purchasing power of people is decreased actually. Just
So
I
if
wanted to mention that, but
so
it's
if the
not.
purchase
It's just
if the
the
purchase
perspective people have here or all people around the world is not the same as Venezuela, which people really couldn't find any and they were starving. But it's not the same. I'm not defending the Islamic Republic, you know me. I'm not saying that.
I know, but like this is
Just
econ. Like I'm just trying to teach you econ. I'm not telling you that you're defending the Islamic Republic, of course. I'm just basically explaining econ 101, right? So when you say people have less purchasing power, that means there will be less supply of goods, because nobody's going to produce. Nobody's going to produce goods that people are not going to buy. Like obviously, if people can buy less, there will be less production, so there will be less supply, because nobody is going to produce something that is not going to be bought. So the supply is lower.
yes, but what I'm saying,
We're turning this into an econ. Like I think people are going to okay. Make your point, and then we'll move on.
okay,
Yeah.
just as an Iranian outside of Iran, when I saw the people's concerns regarding the food shortage in Iran, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your concern as an Iranian. And just I
Yes.
wanted to mention that fortunately, our people in Iran are not starving the majority yet, but hopefully we won't get there. And also, some people were asking about the Reza Pahlavi website, and I think if you want to have a good picture of what the Prince Reza Pahlavi has been actually preparing for the transition to the government and in the future of Iran, I think if you go to this website, you can find it, or just type Iran Prosperity Project. That's it. Thank you very much. Sorry, the Armenified,
No, it's
if
okay.
you
It's okay.
misunderstood me. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Right. Yeah, so just a summary is that we are experiencing food shortages in Iran, because if you can't buy the food, that's basically the same as not having the food. And a lot of Iranians haven't. So, by the way, there's most of the Iranians who can't afford food are not even visible, because not even visible to Iranians, because they're too poor to even be recorded. But we can actually see, based on data, that I think last time I checked, like half of Iran is now below the poverty line. The main thing that, so it's not just the amount of, so when we talk about starvation, we're talking about calories. Okay, but malnutrition sometimes comes before starvation. So because of technology these days, low calories usually doesn't become an issue, because calories are easy to make. Malnutrition becomes a problem before starvation. Like because of modern technology, calories are available everywhere. People can afford to get enough calories even if they're very, very poor. But what they don't get is that they don't get the proper nutrition, which is going to have a lot of, because they can't afford the food diversity, they can't afford fruits and meat and dairy. Even though they're eating, I don't know, stuff that fills them up, they're not getting the type of food that they're required to stay healthy. And malnutrition and lower health standards causes more death more death than evil than even massacring people in the streets. The number of people who die because of health conditions, not having access to proper food, not having access to a good healthcare system, that by its own is higher than the number of people the Islamic Republic kills in the streets of Iran. The number of people who die from air pollution because of lack of management of Iran's the type of oil, the type of fuel that they burn in Iran. The number of people who die from air pollution every year is higher than the number of people that the Islamic Republic kills in Iran. The number of people who die in Iran because of car accidents, because of poor road conditions and low quality cars that the Islamic Republic produces, even those numbers are higher by themselves than the number of people that the Islamic Republic kills in the streets. So Iranian people are being killed in so many other ways than just being shot in the streets. And low food quality is one of them.